guys ready to
So
jump
let's
into
talk
some spoilers?
Yes.
Spoil
All right,
it.
let's
So I
do
can
it.
dig a little bit deeper into the thing I was just talking about, which is how he had no arc. When he made a point to put on his graduation hat, I was just waiting for a reveal that he actually didn't graduate or something,
Wow.
or
Wow.
waiting for
Yeah.
something, like something, because he literally had no flaws. He kind of felt like a character where it's just like, oh well, he's the first Latin superhero, so we can't give him any flaws. Because is there anything wrong with him?
Well,
Does he
I think
does
that
he learn anything?
I think the arc almost went the other way though, because he was so perfect, but at some point when the bad guy is like really challenging him and has done so much damage to his family, he goes the opposite way. He gets real
Yeah.
dark there for a second, and the symbiote has to bring him back to this like the
Who
good
he
side.
is.
Yeah, who he really is, and remind him who he really is. And I think it did that in a couple of different ways. So it starts speaking Spanish, which I thought was really
I thought that
cool.
was
That it's
so
like
cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
it was fantastic how they wove that in there, and they show how much they're really meshing with one another. But also, like, he's about to kill this guy, and he's like, "No, no,
Deservedly
she."
so. That guy
He's like,
deserves to die as
"Wait a minute."
fuck.
I mean, he deserved to die probably, but at the same time, like, that's not who he is, and there were other ways to do it, right? So,
And I love how that happened too, right? She said, "We are not killers," which was great. In the beginning was, "I'm not a killer." And then
right,
she says at the end, "We're not killers." And so
yeah.
I agree with what Larissa's saying when we talk about, does he have an arc or is he perfect? I, I think he is a very good character, like a good person. And I think what they tried to do is just rob him of his optimism, which is the thing that had driven him that far into the film. And so, it's a different kind of arc. And
Yeah.
I enjoyed what I saw though.
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember because I had that thought too, where it's like we're not killers. I'm like, oh, he had an arc. I'm like, wait, that wasn't his arc. That was what is this thing called? Shada?
Something like that. I
Something like
forget.
that? Shada arc, and but also like you mentioned, where he kind of loses way for a brief second and then comes back. But yeah, it felt weird because I was just waiting for something. I'm like, what is his deal? Why you're making like because I don't think he makes a single decision in that movie that like a normal person wouldn't make.
Well, he doesn't make any decisions without his family, I think, for the most part, or without, um, ultimately, then without the symbiote for a
Mm-hmm.
backup. And again, that kind of goes back to his family, like it becoming more like him. And so him being like the rest of his family, he couldn't do it. So I, I liked it. I liked the way that it was done. It made sense to me. And again, it might have been like a downward arc, if that's a thing. Like we always think of it going like up and you're like growing or something. But I think it was grounding more than anything else. He finally felt grounded and he found his purpose. So that was
Yeah.
all tied in there together.
So
Which
I
is the
went
other part of
to
his arc.
I've grown up or grown up. Yeah, I've basically decided I'm an adult now, and because I'm an adult, if I need to go pee in the
Congratulations.
middle of the movie, I'm just gonna get up and go. I got up and went at an inopportune time because when I came back, they were in
Oh
the middle of the
no.
Beetle cave.
Yeah.
Oh,
So what in those first minute and a half of the Beetle cave? What was up? What happened there? How did that come about?
So wait, which part? So she just took them to the house. So they basically took him to Wayne
Was
Manor.
there any
Um,
exposition about
no,
who
so
he
what I
was?
loved about this was yeah, so what I loved about this was they maintained the canonical like Ted Kord is the Blue Beetle first, and he didn't have the powers or anything like that. So like if you go back to the 90s, maybe even before that, like that's who Blue Beetle was. before he became Jaime Reyes with the powers. And so like if you read, like he's pretty prominent in the death of Superman, which was kind of cool because you got to see the suit that he was wearing way back then, and where his eye was cracked. I don't know if you could see. It looked almost exactly like it did in the death of Superman. So what they did was they gave some exposition to help you understand, like, no, Ted Kord was the Blue Beetle. He had all of this equipment. He had all of this stuff. And like all of that stuff was always true in the comic books, which is kind of fun. And if we're talking about how this film integrates into the new kind of James Gunn universe, I like this idea that these heroes have always existed. So like in this film, he mentioned Superman. So in my head,
And Batman.
given what did he mention Batman?
George
I
Lopez
don't
said
think
Batman's
Oh,
a
he says he's a
fascist.
fascist. Yeah, he says he's a
fascist.
fascist. Yeah. I like that idea that these people already existed in this universe. And so that's a lot of fun that they're giving Ted Kord that, you know, like this is a character that always existed in this universe. So that's kind of what you missed with that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't miss a whole lot. Like, I missed part of it. I think I came in when literally he's like, Batman's a fascist. That's about when I came in.
Yeah.
It was interesting how they wove some of that in there too, where they like call out certain other characters. So there was the Brandon said the she takes him into Wayne Manor or the Batcave, right? And so he also at one point is wearing a Gotham University law
Yes. I saw that.
hoodie in there. So
It's a little premature, a little pre-law.
Pre-law, yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-law.
Little
I
premature.
thought it was funny what his sister said, where she was like, "Do you need any pre-lawyers?" That was really
She was awesome. I loved her. She was great.
She was great. She was really great. I meant to go look
Oh.
up her name too, because I when they said it initially, I chuckled because I was like, that's the name of a tequila. And that was what stuck out for me. I was like, I have to remember what that name actually
what milagro?
means. Milagro, yeah.
That means miracle.
Oh. Yeah, I associated
Which
it
is
with
funny because at
tequila.
first I thought it was a pet name for the grandma to call her that, but
Mhm.
then I realized that was just her name.
That was
Yeah,
a
no, it's just her name. No, her nickname was
Um,
Millie. I kept hearing them call her Millie. But yeah. There's
That's
a
cool.
delicious tequila out there with this by the same name. Just saying.
That's a
Great.
good name.
You should
That's
try
a good name to get there.
I like that we got a LexCorp shout out in this as well. That was a fun little Easter egg.
I missed that.
it's-
What was that?
So when you see Cord Tower directly behind Cord Tower is actually right after you see him in the Gotham Law hoodie. The next scene you see Cord Tower, because remember that's where he's going to meet her. Behind that is LexCorp Tower.
Oh,
Missed
that's
it.
what you were reacting to. I missed that. I don't know what
I was reacting
looking
to
at, but-
there were a couple things in like fast sequence those were two
Mhm.
things that happened real quick. Yeah, those are fun. I like that.
This is
Um,
definitely a movie I think I would try to watch again to pick up on more of that stuff, because I do think that there were a lot of things like that.
Did you guys ever watch The Guyver?
No.
Or are you familiar with it? This had very strong Guyver vibes to it, which I liked. Like I appreciate. Like if you ever go back and watch that original Mark Hamill film, or watch the second one with David Hayter, or if you watch the anime, like you'll get to see like where there's some of this. Like especially if you watch the anime, because it is about kids that basically have. It's not a scarab, but it looks very much like this. And it attaches itself to their bodies, and it comes out of their body and protects them, and it won't let them die. Very much in the same way as this. So like I really like that. I don't know if some of it was intentional, but to me that really stood out to me in this film. Speaking of which, like I really, really enjoyed that first transformation scene. Like that was absolutely hilarious.
It was.
I
It was
almost hurt
horrifying
myself
because
laughing.
I just imagine like the sister being like, "Oh my god, I just killed my brother because I forced him to open up the freaking belly burger carton." And people are just throwing it around. I'm just like, put it down. You don't know. The thing looks like it's really expensive. Like I would have not touched it based on that alone.
It was so good. And then I love the part when it disappeared. And I was like, I think it went in his ass. And George Lopez, it went in his ass.
That was so funny because you said it. I heard you say it right before George Lopez was like, it went in his ass. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And then later on, Jaime was like, no, it didn't go in my ass.
Yes, it did.
We had a good chuckle too at one point when he was upside down, which was like because it was fresh in our minds, the TMNT when they were getting milked.
Getting milked? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirsten and I were watching something earlier this week, and at one point that someone was tied down. I'm like, they're getting milked. Like I've been thinking that constantly since watching TMNT.
And our kids said the same thing. They were like, oh, he's getting milked. This movie's hilarious.
Anyways, I think this movie is great. I think it's great for representation. I definitely want to see it continue more. Hopefully, its inevitable box office bomb isn't gonna hurt its chances of future movies, or at least future involvement with the DC universe. Hopefully, James Gunn has enough sway as co-CEO to basically say, "Hey, this wasn't on us, yo. You gotta let us build. I'm a peacock. You gotta let me fly on this one." And that they let him fly.
I think we can talk more about this and don't necessarily have to be in spoilers because there are two more things I'd like to talk to you all about.